Did you know that there was a president who tackled a Heisman Trophy winner? A president who shouldn't have ever even been president. That was until a scandal shocked the United States and led us into a frenzy in Washington, D.C. That man's name is Gerald Ford, the 38th president of the United States. Let's rewind. Gerald Ford was born in Omaha, Nebraska on July 14, 1913. His name was originally Leslie Lynch King Jr., but he took after his stepfather's name, Gerald Rudolph Ford, when he and his mother settled in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Life wasn't easy for Gerald Ford. He grew up in the post-World War I era, which later resulted in the Great Depression. The tough times of the era molded Ford into the young man he later became. Ford was a student athlete who excelled in both the classroom and on the football field. His talent landed him a scholarship to the University of Michigan, where he pursued higher education and a spot as the starting center and linebacker of the Wolverines. Due to the then growing NFL, football wasn't meant to be a career for Gerald Ford. The league didn't pay well, and the average salary was around $1,000 for only 14 games. Ford himself had a goal of obtaining an undergraduate degree, and one that could somehow lead him to Yale Law School. Ford began his college career playing center and linebacker for Michigan. His sophomore and junior years in 1932 and 1933 each resulted in an undefeated championship season. This molded leadership qualities in Ford. He was a young man who possessed a work ethic and knew what it took to win games. In a twist of the Wolverines' fate, Ford's senior year in 1934 was as polar opposite of the previous two as you could possibly be. The team won a whopping one game, but none other than Gerald Ford was voted the team's MVP that season. Due to segregation rules in 1934, when Michigan faced Georgia Tech in Georgia, Willis Ward, an African-American player for Michigan, was prohibited from playing because of athletic director Bill Alexander. This made Ford so upset he considered quitting the team. Ward told Ford it would be best if he played, so Ford did. In storybook fashion, the Wolverines defeated the Yellow Jackets, making this their only win of the season. 1935 began with Gerald Ford being selected to play in the East-West Shrine All-Star Game, and this would take place on New Year's Day, a college All-Star game that was played for charity. And later that summer, Ford earned a spot on the college All-Star team that faced the defending NFL champion Chicago Bears in the Chicago College All-Star Game, which was played at Soldier Field. It was during that game that Ford lined up against Jay Berwanger, the most celebrated player in the country and the first Heisman Trophy winner in college football history. Multiple accounts report that Ford tackled Berwanger during the game, making him the first future president to ever tackle a Heisman winner. A few months later, Ford graduated from Michigan with a Bachelor of Arts in Economics. 1935 was a whirlwind and brought Ford to an immense crossroads: pursue his dream of public service and go to Yale Law School, or take offers from NFL teams. He was offered by both the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. The contracts would be 14 games for around $1,100, a number that would be about $24,000 adjusted for inflation today. Had he accepted the Packers' offer, he would have won the 1936 NFL championship. Instead, Ford chose the childhood dream, Yale Law School. But it wasn't that easy. In hopes of getting into the rigorous Yale Law School, he decided to become a coach in multiple areas of Yale's athletics. He was appointed in September of 1935 as the boxing coach and assistant varsity football coach at Yale. Due to his full-time coaching jobs, he was rejected admission into Yale Law in 1935. But fast forward to 1937, and Ford found himself spending his summer as a student at Michigan's law school. Finally, in 1938, he was admitted to Yale Law School and even got a promotion to head coach of Yale's JV football team. The dream of Ford's was officially completed in 1941, when he graduated from Yale Law School and was admitted to the Michigan bar a short time later. To any history buff, 1941 is a year where the United States neutrality broke, as on December 7th of that year, Pearl Harbor was struck by the Japanese. The path to public service was briefly hindered, as Gerald Ford served in the Navy beginning in 1942 until 1946. He served aboard aircraft carriers in the Pacific, facing down kamikaze attacks and surviving a brutal typhoon that nearly swept him overboard. Ford was a man who needed no recognition, and once the war was over, he came home. He was honorably discharged in 1946. He later returned back to Michigan, and his political career began in 1948. But 2 years prior, he had gotten into Republican politics. His 1948 campaign saw him become an official member of the House of Representatives for a whopping 25 years. He held the position from 1949 to 1973, winning 12 straight elections. He lost more football games than he did elections. And if you remember anything about the year 1973, obviously the name Richard Nixon would ring a bell. But what defined the administration that year was the fact that Nixon's Vice President Spiro Agnew had resigned. At the time, Ford was the minority leader of the House. Nixon needed someone with experience, and that man became Gerald Ford. The Senate and the House passed votes to confirm him as the new vice president. And 1974 was defined by the Watergate scandal. Nixon's operatives broke into the Democratic National Committee headquarters and attempted to cover it all up. The lies in the trail led straight back to the Oval Office, and Nixon resigned on August 9th, before he could be impeached. And just like that, Ford became president. To put it lightly, the earth was scorched. Trust in Washington was minuscule, but the man who became president was someone who never even wanted the job in the first place. And on that same day that Richard Nixon resigned, Gerald Ford became became the commander-in-chief, the only commander-in-chief to ever assume the position without being elected to either the presidency or the vice presidency. Not to mention, he was the only president who could have truly gone to the NFL. And while Ford's presidency was unsuccessful and controversial due to his pardon of Nixon, it is remarkable that he once was at a crossroads between law school and the NFL. He later lost re-election to Jimmy Carter, as his public perception post-pardon was truly terrible. Even during his presidency, the media would not let the football background go. Every time he tripped or even bumped his head, they rolled the same clips and cracked the same jokes, saying he had been hit way too many times while he was playing center. And despite his athleticism, the media were cracking CTE jokes before CTE was ever even discovered. The later years of his life saw a jersey retirement of his number 48 in 1994, an incredible accomplishment from a former two-time national champion turned president. Gerald Ford died on December 26, 2006, at the age of 93, and he proved to the journalists and all the media that he in fact truly was the most fit president. Gerald Ford will forever be remembered for being the unelected president and the pardoner of Richard Nixon. What many don't know is that he gave up the opportunity to become a Super Bowl champion and an NFL player in the earliest era of the sport, a hybrid of a center and linebacker turned the 38th president of the United States, the first ever president and maybe the only ever president to tackle a Heisman Trophy winner. I'm Cobalt Productions. Thank you for listening.